Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. All right, so first of all, got to announce that Google actually reinstated my video after my appeal. So I'll actually give them props to that. They actually reviewed the video. An actual person apparently reviewed the video where it was, taken down by some algorithm that, focused in on 2 or 3 words and, and took my video down and sent me a warning. Of course, when they put it back up, they didn't say anything at all. I just looked at my account and it was back up. So anyway, about 2 weeks ago, there was a lawyer that was indicted regarding Russiagate, and I had already done a video on that. And now, Igor Danchenko has been indicted. In each case, these people were indicted for lying to the FBI. And it just happens that both of them were employed by Perkins Coie, the law firm that worked for the Hillary Clinton campaign, and the DNC. So if we start seeing convictions for this, remember, there was all of this hubbub about the indictments of Trump's people, and there were convictions for that, but not one of those convictions was related to Russia or Russiagate. None of them, not a one. One was convicted of foreign, not registering as a foreign agent, acting as a foreign agent for Turkey and Israel. There were no convictions of the Trump campaign or cabinet that had to do with Russia or Russiagate. Whereas these indictments are actually directly related to false information given to the FBI by these people on the behalf of Hillary Clinton and the DNC. So if they are convicted, they will be the first convictions related to Russiagate, and it's not because of anything Russia did. I have been covering Russiagate since it first began in July of 2016. I've been writing about it, doing videos about it for the last 4 years, more than 4 years, and calling it a lie from the very beginning, because there was never any evidence. There was never any evidence. There are a few things I want you to remember about Russiagate. Number one, in September of 2015, the Hillary Clinton campaign had, at a meeting, she was talking about building Russia up as a threat. Remember that. Remember that the FBI in 2015 told the FBI that their servers were unsecured and offered to help secure those servers. The DNC refused. Remember that not one of the DNC emails has ever been contested as being false information. They were all completely real. Remember that the DNC hired CrowdStrike to handle their servers. The FBI never got to examine the actual servers. They went with what was reported by CrowdStrike. And CrowdStrike never actually submitted a complaint statement, a report. Their report was never officially finalized. It was never signed off. CrowdStrike also was talking about Russia hacking artillery in Ukraine, and the Ukrainian government called that a lie. The Ukrainian government, who is freaking fighting. They are adversaries, military adversaries against Russia, and they called CrowdStrike liars. Remember that? CrowdStrike never provided a report on any of these events that were not redacted. They redacted information that was being provided to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and they never provided a report which was not redacted. Not once, ever, not to this day. 5 years later, they have not provided an unredacted report. So these people that work with Perkins Coie, they are tied to the Steele dossier, as in tied to the Steele dossier, saying that it was real, that it was true. They paid Christopher Steele to produce the Steele dossier. They paid him. And then the FBI paid him. And the FBI paid Perkins Coie. Are you getting all of this? Anyway, all of that went forward to the Mueller investigation, which I did a 4-part series, written and video, going line by line through the Mueller report and showing just how false all of it was. My favorite line is still on page 10 of the PDF, where Mueller said, he wrote, "Just because we didn't find any evidence doesn't mean there isn't any." You didn't need to go any further through the Mueller report than that, because you already knew what was going to follow was all propaganda, and it was all propaganda. If you still think that less than $100,000 paying for Facebook ads, more than half of which didn't endorse any candidate, more than half of which did not appear online until after the election, actually not until January of 2017. If you still think that that is Russian interference in an election, less than you're talking about $50,000 or less worth of Facebook ads, some of which promoted Hillary, some of which promoted Trump, some of which promoted Sanders. And even of those, less than half, so you're talking $25,000 or less of Facebook advertising, had anything to do with any of the political candidates. You had stuff like Bernie coloring books and, Jesus and Satan arm wrestling. This was what some of this was. Some of it was actually promoting Black Lives Matter. Some of it was encouraging people to vote. Oh my God, a foreign government telling people to vote without telling them, trying to convince them to vote one way or another, just promoting the idea of voting. So, this is really nefarious, isn't it? So $25,000 of Facebook ads turned the election. By the way, only about 25% of those ads were ever seen by anyone at all. Only like 25% were ever seen. So you're cutting $25,000 down into fourths. A little over $6,000 worth of Facebook ads that were ever seen before the election. In an election that saw over $2 billion between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. It was over $2 billion. I think it was over $3 billion between them. The most expensive election in the history of the world. But $6,000 worth of Facebook ads was, Russian meddling. So when Mueller tried to indict the Internet Research Agency that produced these ads, he thought that they were not going to show up in court. They had legal representation show up in court. They did. And Mueller lost to the Internet Research Agency. The U.S. federal judge ruled that nobody in our government, especially Mueller, could claim that the IRA was tied to the Kremlin because there was absolutely no evidence to that effect. Mueller tried going after WikiLeaks. The DNC tried going after WikiLeaks. 2 weeks before Mueller's congressional testimony, the DNC lost to WikiLeaks. 1 week before his testimony, Mueller lost to the Internet Research Agency, both in U.S. federal court. And yet some people still believe some of this garbage. And I've put out so many articles, so many videos going into this in extreme detail, going through all 448 pages of the Mueller report. And they still, Russia. No. Look how many damn countries the United States interferes in their elections and the running of their government. Look at how many, regime change wars we have engaged in. Assassinations. Gaddafi. Has anyone come in and killed one of our leaders? Has anybody tried? I mean, somebody from another government. No. Our government tried to assassinate Castro over 600 times. You think that's not interfering in another government? Go back, look at Pinochet. Look at Honduras just a few years ago under Hillary Clinton, the U.S. State Department. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, right this minute, Iran. We can keep going and going and going and going and going with these lists of how many governments we have interfered with. But you want to talk about some freaking Facebook ads. I mean, seriously, get over this. I am waiting for these indictments to turn into convictions. I will be more than happy after all we have been through over the past 5 years, the ratcheted up tensions with Russia as a result. I want to see these people go to jail. I want to see Hillary Clinton behind bars. I want to see, what's his face, the freaking FBI director. I want to see him behind bars. I want to see James Clapper behind bars. I want to see all of them indicted and convicted. Because the freaking danger, even the cost, the expense of increasing our, defense budget. This is worth criminal conviction. This is worth getting to the point where we apologize to Russia. That's never going to happen. You know that. That would be diplomacy. And the U.S. does not engage in diplomacy. Not unless it involves the barrel of a gun. All right. So I'm hoping to see more indictments and a whole string of convictions. Because this went way too far. It is still too far. And by the way, I'd love to see Rachel Maddow behind bars too. For life. All right, so share this video. Talk about these subjects. If you can, please donate $1 a month to help expand the channel. I'll catch you in the next one.